This might be one of the most interesting topics I've seen in a long time. The title is 12 Reasons to Ignore Your User's Feature Request and Why You'll Thank Me Later for It. I came across this article from one of the recommendations from one of my subscribers. I really, really appreciate that. And it's interesting because here's where it goes. It says your inbox is flooded. You're getting pinged on Slack with nonstop. Every customer calls seems to end with, "Oh, and just one more thing we need." You're drowning in a sea of feature requests. We've all been there. The roadmap grows endlessly. Priorities bounce around. Work can never be completed fast enough. The team is stressed beyond belief. It's enough to make any product manager want to curl up into a ball and hide under their standing desk. Unfortunately for me, and probably you too, that's not the best hiding place. I'll compound that and say, especially now during the holiday season, we have all these other external things that we need to worry about that are happening in our lives. And that's not even taking those things into account. Guess what? Not only is it okay, it's absolutely essential to ignore those requests. Maybe not all of them, but likely most of them. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to give credit to whoever wrote this article. I'm going to pin him in the comments. What I can tell you is this is a really, really well thought out function. I think I see where they're going with this. And I love where they're taking this. This is really good. I tell people all the time that the best feature or the best status that a story could ever have is known but not resolved. And what I mean by that is, yes, we know that you want this, or yes, we know that you think this is an issue, but right now is not the time. And when I say that, people are alarmed. They're like, why would you ever do such a thing? What I can tell you is some of the biggest organizations and agencies in the world do this. So it's not like I'm telling you any secret. It's known but not resolved. He goes on to say, I know, I'm preaching some product management hearsay here. We've all had that customer centricity drilled into our collective head since day one. But hear me out on this one. Sometimes the best thing you could possibly do for your user is smile, nod, and promptly ignore what they just said. Now let me regale you with a bunch of reasons to plug your ears. After you're done reading this, of course. Okay, so here's the reasons. Number one, not every user matches your ideal customer profile. It's flattering when users outside your target market show interest in your product, but catering to everyone is a surefire way to end up with a product that's perfect for no one. There's a large company that does technology in the US that suffers from this. Their whole, I don't want to say their mantra, but the way that they operate is we want to be everything to everyone. And if you're everything to everyone, it means you're nothing to no one. And I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't be every single thing, every single hero thing to every single person who uses your product. The best you can do is figure out who your 80% audience is and build a 20% that they care about, right? So if you're trying to stay focused, you need to have a chance to make sure you ask yourself some questions. And I liken this to the Marie Kondo. If you don't know who she is, she's the organization expert. You have to ask yourself, does this spark great joy? Is this going to bring the end users a high impact, great joy? So does this align with their needs? Could this distract from serving the core users? Do we care if the customer making a request were to go into churn? So you need to understand your target audience exclusively and make sure you're building your product with them. Coming in at number two, the squeaky wheel should not always get the grease. Think of that one user who just won't stop messaging you about their complaint or their demand. It's tempting to just prioritize it just to keep them quiet and gain back a little sanity. But if you overservice a vocal minority, you alienate your core user base. Now, what's interesting is we're starting to see this pendulum swing in a lot of different companies. And what I mean by that is you hear a lot of people talking about the woke presence, so to speak. I did woke in air quotes, by the way. I believe that it's important for all of us to be aware, make sure everyone has an equal voice to the table. I'm a big fan of making sure that we have inclusiveness and that we have diversity when necessary, and that we're making sure the most qualified candidates have ranks and positions. I'm a big fan of all those things. And I feel like now more than ever, it's important with technology pushing us in the direction of having these things at our fingertips. But if you're constantly over-servicing the vocal minority that's screaming, what's going to eventually happen is your core value customers are going to go away. So you need to have balance. Your acquiescence to those ceaseless demands is a flywheel that makes those demands ceaseless. It's just going to keep coming, it'll never stop. And silent users are definitely going to churn without ever voicing their concerns and go away. And those are often the users, the ones that are happy or the ones that are silent. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, if you're giving feedback about something, you're more likely to talk out loud about the things that frustrate you than you are about the things that make you happy. So oftentimes that vocal minority is being really, really loud, but the people who love you are just simply moving along using your product and telling their close friends about how insanely positive it is. So you need to make sure before jumping on a request that you consider the broader appeal. Is it going to benefit only a small portion of the users? Is it going to appease one customer, or is it going to appease the greater audience? Okay. Innovation never comes from consensus. If you're always just building what your users are asking for, you're not innovating, you're iterating. I'm going to say that one more time. If you're always just building what your users are asking for, you're not innovating, you're iterating. And that's important. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but true breakthroughs come from thinking beyond what your current user expectations are and imagining possibilities that they haven't even yet considered. Don't be afraid to pursue ideas that the users haven't asked for. Some of the most revolutionary products ever made in history weren't responses to user requests, they were visionary leaps that users could have never dreamt of. Things like Airbnb. Who would have thought that people would pay hotel money to sleep in a stranger's home? What about Uber? Who would have thought that instead of taking a taxi, that you would call someone and they come pick you up in a personal vehicle? What about Slack? It's counterintuitive to aim to make workplace communications feel more personal. That made people dread pings from their workplace communication system of choice. Emoji reactions being the biggest bonus of them all, right? It's just, you have to balance user feedback with bold original thinking if you're going to stay ahead of the curve. Competitors are often a terrible roadmap. I hear people use this one all the time. Competitor X has this feature. Why don't you? I need that, right? That's a common refrain in user feedback, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's tempting to play catch up with the competitors, but blindly copying what your competitors have done is a race to mediocrity. Your goal isn't to be a carbon copy. Your goal is to provide unique value. And I think that's the key. Instead of mimicking your competitors, focus on what makes your product special. What's your value proposition? Differentiation is the key in a crowded market. So when a user requests a feature, just because a competitor has it, dig deeper. What need is it addressing for that user? Can you solve the problem in a way that's uniquely aligned with your product strengths? Is there an opportunity to leapfrog the competition instead of just catching up? Would implementing this feature dilute your unique selling proposition? Ask questions, differentiate, or die. Okay, users really don't know what they want. This is true. Users struggle to articulate their true needs. Instead, they focus on surface level solutions that they see as totally reasonable ways to solve their problems. I have said this a million times. Majority of the people focus on the symptom and not the problem. So it's our responsibility to understand they're not unreasonable. The requested feature might create long-term usability issues or solve a symptom but leave the root cause behind or address an edge case. But users aren't the ones who know any of that. And I want to make sure I go on record and say it's not their fault. It's not their job to know all the details. It's their job to get value out of the product. So figure out what that value is and give them the value. Don't just address the symptom. How about number 6? Feature bloat is silent but deadly. If you build everything your users are asking for, you're going to wind up with a toaster that helps you find buried treasure and find true love. And that's not what you're trying to do. It becomes something terrible. Every yes response to a feature request is no to something else. I'm going to say it again. Every time you say yes to a feature request, you're saying no to something different, and you're pushing yourself towards bloat. And that's important for you to recognize. Users might think they want every bell and whistle, but in reality, they crave simplicity. Did you ever hear everyone complain, oh my goodness, this product is way too easy to use? Nobody's ever going to say that, right? So if you're doing bloat, it's going to be longer onboarding, increased cognitive load, diluted core value prop, higher development maintenance cost, increased training and learning curve. I mean, I can go on and on. You can't do the feature factory route, or you're going to have a monstrosity that does nothing and everything all at the same time, and that's not going to work. Product vision and strategy matters. You didn't start your company or build your product on a whim. You had a vision, a core problem you wanted to solve, a change that you wanted to make in the world for your target user base. Don't let the willy-nilly request pull you off course. Every feature should align with your core mission and long terms. Ask yourself, does this request fit in our product vision? Will it move us closer to our end, to our goal, to our objectives? Will it have impact? Is it consistent with our brand and values? If the answer to any of those questions is no, gently push the user aside. No, not resolved. Move on. Stay focused on the North Star. Sometimes users are just plain wrong. You've heard this a million times. The customer is always right. It's probably true that something about what your user's saying contains some amount of accuracy. But no, in general, get this, your customers aren't always right. They're asking you for things that they have no business asking for. Many times they don't understand the technology, or they don't understand the market trend, or they don't understand the product's capability, or they don't understand your business model, nor is it their responsibility to. So I'm taking it off of them too, right? It's your job to be the expert, not just a subject matter expert, but to see the bigger picture, to make informed decisions based on holistic views of the product, the business, the landscape, everything else that's going on. How about number 9? Resource allocation is a zero-sum game. You only have so many human beings to plug into an equation. Every feature you build takes time, money, and brain power away from something else. It's not just about whether the feature is good, it's about whether it's the best use of your people's time. So before greenlighting a request, ask yourself, what will we not be able to do if we do this instead? That's your red light, green light report that I always talk about. Is this the highest impact use for our people right now? How does this align with our current priorities, targets, metrics, roadmap, etc.? Sometimes the opportunity cost of saying yes is just too high, and I think people forget about that. Number 10, you need problems, not solutions. Let me explain. The users coming to you with these requests are typically coming with solutions and not problems. They'll tell you, we need a button that does X, when really what you really should be focusing on is, we're really struggling with Y, how can we solve it? Your job is to decode what users really need. Your job is to uncover the underlying problem. Train yourself. Ask questions when the demands hit your desk. What's the use case? What's the context? What's the desired outcome? Does an existing feature already there that meets their needs? Dig deeper to uncover real issues. These are all things that you have to take in mind, and this one's going to blow your mind. They'll forget about it soon. Remember that feature request that seemed absolutely critical last week? The one that had the users throwing their arms in the air, hair on fire, telling you the sky is falling? Give it a month, and that user may have completely forgotten about it. It's not like they're all fickle, well, maybe a little. It's just the pain subsides as people go about their lives. This phenomenon happens for a few reasons. They get caught up in momentary frustration, they discover workarounds, alternative solutions, their priorities shift. There's many things that can lead to this. So you have to ask yourself, has this been continuously raised over time? Does it align with our long-term product strategy? Will users actually leave and go to another product and quit our product if we don't give them something now? And I think that if you just focus on those things, you might grumble in the short term, but in the long run, they'll thank you for building a product that solves their actual problems in ways that they never even imagined. That was a long one, but that's going to do it. If you have a topic you want to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.